With a win on Sunday, the Broncos would have a 72% chance of making the playoffs, but a loss, it's a 30-point swing, all the way down to 42% chance. So luckily, there are some much-needed reinforcements coming into Sunday's matchup in Kansas City. And if you want to beat the Chiefs, show me by liking today's video. We have had a little bit of a run or dry spell of getting over 300 likes. I want to demolish that number. I want to get to number 600 specifically for win number 6 for the Broncos. But let's talk about some of the really good injury news the Denver Broncos are getting going into Week 10. I mean, a couple of new names popping up here, like Drew Sanders, who has practiced for a second straight day, Wednesday and Thursday, as they opened up his practice window. He is recovering from an Achilles injury he suffered in the offseason. And then 2 starters could be returning to the lineup, center Luke Wattenberg and safety PJ Locke. So let's talk about these 3 players in particular, because 2 of them are starting and 1 could have a large role now that Baron Browning is an Arizona Cardinal. But let's start with Sanders here, the former third-round pick out of Arkansas. He has been on the PUP list for the entirety of the season up until this point. Denver opened up his practice window. They gave him, when you open up your player's practice window, they get 21 days to practice. He does not count towards the 53-man roster while he is practicing, but if they wanted to play on Sunday, then they got to open up a roster spot for him. But after trading away Browning, it would be nice to get some reinforcements at this position. You want to have some solid depth. I think Cooper and Benito are very capable of doing more than just holding down the fort without Browning. I mean, let's be honest. They were excelling when Browning was on injured reserve. I don't think that's like a reflection of anything. I think it's more just a coincidence than anything. But still, you want to have a nice rotation. You've got DeAndre Tillman and Jonah Ellis, 2 guys who were either a rookie or unknown coming into this year, and they both put together a combined 4 sacks. You add Sanders into this mix, and you're right back to where you were going into this season, which was a nice committee rushing the quarterback. So very nice to see Sanders practicing. I'm excited to see him take the field for the first time this year. Now, a starter that could be coming back to the lineup, safety PJ Locke. The Broncos have missed Locke over the last 2 weeks, especially this past Sunday in Baltimore, where Zay Flowers was running all over the field. And while Locke might not be a ball hawk type safety, he reminds me of Kareem Jackson. He's going to bring the boom, right? No pun intended there. But he's going to bring some thumping and some big hits to this defense, which it needs right now, because when you put up or give up 41 points against the Ravens, you got to bring in a tone setter. You got to bring someone who can establish some physicality and really play it with some violence, to be honest with you. And unfortunately, Devon Key just really wasn't getting the job done while filling in for Locke, but that thumb injury sidelined him for 2 weeks. He has been a full participant at practice this week, so very optimistic that Denver can get healthy and regain their starting safety combination between Brandon Jones and PJ Locke. Now, before we look at another starter who returned to practice, who you got, by the way? Broncos or Chiefs? I want to hear from everyone in the comment section. No one gave Denver a chance last year. No one thought the Broncos were going to end their 15-game losing streak to Kansas City. And then they did it in style. And if there is one thing about the Chiefs, it's they are great in the AFC West, but they're vulnerable at home, oddly enough. Aiden O'Connell ruined Christmas in Kansas City last year. Although now that I think about it, Andy Reid might have lost that game intentionally, so the Raiders hired Antonio Pierce and just ruined them for an extra season or 2. I wouldn't put it past Reid to be playing 3D chess like that. So if there is a place where you can catch the Chiefs off guard, for some reason, it's at Arrowhead. Now, before we talk about another key piece of injury news and some reinforcements, I do want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor today, and that is Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Now, for Thursday Night Football, these are the selections I'm rolling with. I've got the more on Lamar Jackson's rushing yards, also got the more on Joe Burrow's passing yards, and I like the more for Derrick Henry at 0.5 touchdowns. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. All of that information is in the comments and description of today's video. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Now, the Broncos could be getting their starting center back as well, Luke Wattenberg, who has been on IR for the previous 4 weeks with an ankle injury. He has been practicing this week. If the Broncos do bring back Wattenberg and Drew Sanders, they're going to have to open up, I believe, just one roster spot, because off the top of my head, I don't think they filled the vacancy after trading away Baron Browning. So take that into consideration as well, although I don't think that's really going to be a prohibitor to those two guys suiting up on Sunday if healthy. I'll also add, I'm not convinced that Wattenberg is just a shoo-in to start again. I think he will start if healthy, but I do think there will be some conversations about going back to Wattenberg after Alex Forsyth has done a pretty spectacular job. I mean, that may be giving him a little bit too much credit, but he's done a really solid job. How about that? Filling in over the last month. Pro Football Focus has loved it. They've got him ranked 11th out of 36 qualifying centers. No penalties, just 2 sacks allowed. So maybe this could be one of those examples of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Look at Denver's offensive line in their PFF ranks. I mean, it's kind of, I don't know if funny is the best word to describe it, but disappointing that the highest paid guy to the bunch is maybe the worst of the bunch, but that just speaks to how good this offensive line is. Bolles, a top 15 tackle. Ben Powers, a top 30 guard, along with Meinerz. Forsyth, nearly a top 10 center. And if the weakest link is Mike McGlinchey at 34th out of 77, yeah, you've got a really good offensive line. And, I mean, this is not any new information. Look at the Broncos' sacks allowed this year. They are 5th in the NFL at 15. If there is one thing Sean Payton is proud of this year, it's this stat right here, because he was furious with the sacks last year. Part of it on the offensive line, part of it on Wilson for holding onto the ball too long and taking a lot of sacks as a result because he wanted some big plays to develop down the field, and he just didn't really have that same level of athleticism he did earlier in Seattle to evade pass rushers. But with Bo Nix, they've done a very good job of protecting the quarterback and not falling behind schedule. So if you've got a good offensive line that's been, I mean, just flipping pancakes like they're working at IHOP over the last month, are you really in a rush to go back to Wattenberg? I think Luke Wattenberg might be a better center, but I don't think he is miles ahead. And I wouldn't be surprised if the coaching staff goes, hey, he's healthy, but we're going to stick with the hot hand right now. So this will be something to watch. Put a gun to my head, I'd say they probably go back to Wattenberg, but I would not like you to pull the trigger on that because I'm not very confident on it. So should the Broncos keep the same starting 5 up front? Or should they go back to the original starting center? It's not like Wattenberg, just for the argument's sake here, devil's advocate, is some first-round pick and a bunch of accolades. He was starting for the first time in his NFL career, so he's not vastly more experienced than Forsyth. He's got 1 extra year on him. I don't think they're all that far apart, and if one's been playing well for the last month, I don't see why you'd break it up unless you are really confident that Wattenberg is going to be a much better center for you. So let me know down below in the comment section. I'd be hard-pressed to go out there and make a switch up front unless what you see in practice is head and shoulders better for Wattenberg compared to Forsyth. All right, that's going to do it for us on today's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed a breakdown of all the good injury news for Denver going into a huge matchup against the Chiefs. They don't want to drop 2 in a row, especially against 2 of the better teams in the AFC, when this is more or less a little bit of an audition for the country and for themselves to prove, yeah, we can hang with the best of the bunch in the AFC. That did not appear to be the case in Baltimore last week. This Sunday, they've got an opportunity to turn this thing around and prove to themselves and to the rest of the NFL, we are a worthy playoff contender. We're not just a team that took advantage of playing a bad Panthers team, a bad Saints team, and, well, a Jets team that just really had no direction, but still a win is a win. So that will do it for us on today's episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe down below if you have not already.